Today's lesson is going to be on NS3. NS3 says that we're going to add, subtract, multiply, and divide multi-digit decimals using the standard algorithm, but we have to do this fluently. So make sure that you understand the process and you do it consistently. Now, we're going to start with adding and subtracting of decimals because those rules are the same. You line up your decimals, line up place values, and subtract and add like normal. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to start with 1 and 4/10 minus 9/10. We're going to line up these decimals just like we did here, and we can bring it straight down. Now we can just divide, just like this would say 14 minus 9. Well, you can't say 4 minus 9 in this type of problem, so we're going to borrow from that 1, making it 0, and making this 4, 14. Now we can say 14 minus 9, and we get 5. Then 0 minus 0, we get 0. So 1.4 or 1 and 4/10 minus 9/10 is going to give us 5/10. Same idea when we are talking about adding decimals. Make sure that your decimals are lined up. So we have our decimals lined up right here. Now, if you notice, our top number in this problem, our first number, only has 2 digits, and our second number, our bottom number, has 3. In this case, we still have to keep our place values in order. We're going to put a 0 above the 5 to hold that place value. Now, with that, we're going to say, we're going to say 0 plus 5 is 5. 3 plus 0 is 3. Then we're going to say 3 plus 7 is 10. So we have 3 and 3/10 plus 7 and 5/100 is going to give us 10 and 35/100. Now, when we're going to do multiplication and division, the rules are a little bit different. With multiplication, we need to move the decimal out at the very beginning, and then we're going to move it back in at the end. So we're going to count some decimal places, Now, with the first one, we're going to move the decimal out, and we're going to get 1 place value here. So pretty much we're looking at that being 34. Then we're going to move this place value out and make that 12. So we're going to move it out 1 place as well. Now, we're going to multiply like this would have been 34 times 12. Then we're going to move those decimals back in at the end. So 2 times 4 is 8. 2 times 3 is 6. We're going to put a 0 here for that place value holder. And then we're going to say 1 times 4 is 4. 1 times 3 is 3. Then we're going to add these up. That gives us 8. 6 and 4 is 10. Carry the 1. That gives us 4. Now, common sense tells us that we can't say 3 and 4/10 times 1 and 2/10 and get in the 400s. So that should be a dead giveaway. We're not done. We moved our decimal place out, 1 on the top and 1 on the bottom. So we're going to move it back in 2 places. So once, twice. So that gives us 4 and 8/100 as our final answer. Now, with multiplication, remember you pull it out first and then put them back in at the end. With division, we again need to make these whole numbers, but we start with our divisor or our part. So remember, this is our total. This is our part. This is our dividend. This is our divisor. We're going to make this divisor a whole number. So we're going to move it out, which means we're actually going to multiply it by 10. When you move that place value 1 time, you are multiplying by 10. If you multiply the outside number by 10, the divisor by 10, you're going to also multiply the dividend by 10. So what we're looking at here is moving that decimal 1 place value. Now, on both the dividend and the divisor, because what you do to one, you have to do to the other. So basically what we're looking at here is 12 divided into 34.0. I don't know why that other decimal place is here. We'll erase that. All right, so now this is what we're basically looking at is 12 divided into 34. So now that we have this decimal here, we can take it straight up and stop. Now, will 12 go into 3? No. So you could put a 0 for that placeholder, or you could just go and say, well, 12, it won't go into 3, but it will go into 34. It will go into 34 2 times, which is 24. Subtract, and that gives us 10 for a remainder. Now, we can drop that 0 and get 100. There we go. Drop that 0, get 100. I meant to use that color. 12 will go into 100 8 times. 8 times 12 is 96. Subtract, and we get 4. You could keep going by dropping zeros and keep on going. You could stop where we had, I'm sorry, I'm getting tongue-tied, where we had 10 as a remainder. You could have stopped and used that as 10 over 12. But let's just take a look here. 12 will go into 40 3 times, which is 36. We're going to subtract, and we get a 4 again. So if we did this again, we would drop another 0, and 12 would go into 40, another 3. So I don't know what's happening to my 3 here. What's going to keep happening here is we're going to keep getting a repeated 3. So the way that we do that is we take and we put a line, what we call a bar notation, above that 3. And that tells us that anything after this 3 is going to be a repeated 3. It's going to keep going and going and going. So real quick, we're going to break that down with adding and subtracting, line up decimals, and keep those place values in order. With multiplying of decimals, move those decimals out and move them back in the same amount of times you moved them out at the very end. With dividing decimals, make that divisor a whole number, and what you do to the outside divisor, you must do to the dividend as well. But then once you move that decimal, take it straight up.